Good evening and welcome to Unlocking Finance with your financial friend. My name is Ntombi, and as usual, I am here to help you unlock your financial potential through simple, practical, and biblical money principles. It's always a privilege to walk this journey with you, where we explore not just financial principles, but timeless truths that shape how we respond to seasons of life. Now, last week, we spoke about purpose and wealth. We learned from the rich fool that money without purpose leads to emptiness, and that financial success without meaning is incomplete. Now, tonight, we shift into a powerful lesson about how to behave in difficult economic seasons. Now, I think this is very much relevant to what we're currently going through. So many challenges, so many things happening. Many good things happening, but at the same time, there are some challenging things that are happening as well at the same time. And so it is important for us to understand what the word has to say about this, or looking at people who went through the same situation and see what actually works biblically, and what is it that God approves of and what God does not approve of, or what God expects our response to be and what he doesn't expect our response to be. So our reading tonight is going to be from Genesis 26. The key verse is verse 12, but we will read from verse 6. This is a story between Isaac and Abimelech. So I'm reading in the English Standard Version, so please do read along with me. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister." For he feared to say my wife, thinking, lest the men of the place should kill me because of Rebekah, because she was attractive in appearance. When he had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac laughing with Rebekah his wife. So Abimelech called Isaac and said, "Behold, she is your wife. How then could you say, she is my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought, lest I die because of her." Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." And Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we." So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. And Isaac dug again wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. Now we're going to stop there. Like I said, our key verse is in verse 12, which says that he sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. Now, this verse is referring to Isaac during a time of famine. Now, this detail is very important, and this is why I featured it in today's episode, because famine in this case can symbolize scarcity. It can symbolize lack, uncertainty, and economic pressure, which I believe is what we are currently experiencing as a country and also globally. And understand that in a famine, most people do one of two things. They either panic and stop investing, or they hold back completely because they fear loss, which is valid. I believe it's a valid, feeling, is that the moment you feel there's pressure or there's a crisis, the more you tend to pull back because you are afraid of the great loss that you could possibly experience. But here we see that Isaac's response was unexpected or different. He decides he's going to sow in the same land where there's famine. Normally, when things are not going well, when things are bad, whether in the country, whether in your finances, wherever area you find yourself in, also pertaining to investments, normally people will migrate their finances to greener pastures and leave the famine behind. Now, don't take this as financial advice. This is just a general explanation of how we've seen things happen, right? Now, we see here that instead he decides he's going to sow in this place where there's famine. He plants, and it really doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't make sense in the investment world. Why would you want to invest in a place that is not fruitful? Why would you want to plant on dry ground? He invests when the environment looks unstable, things look uncertain. As we're looking now in the times of war and, of diseases, for crops and, animals, it doesn't make sense for you to start investing at that time. It only makes sense for you to protect what you currently have, right? But we see here that his response was different. It was contrary to the circumstances. Now, what do we see the result to be? The Bible says that he reaps 100-fold in the same year. Now, what lesson do we take from Isaac in this case? Seasons do not cancel opportunity. Your mindset does. Now, the question is, what is your mindset in the season that we are currently in, when things are difficult, when things do not make sense? Are you able to see opportunity, or do you see scarcity? Understand that your financial journey or your financial wealth is built on mindset. What do you see? What do you believe? What do you value? Many people, or the wealthy people, the people that tend to be wealthy, are people that are able to see opportunities in areas where they are not easily presented or they're not openly presented. Now, the question is, in the midst of lack, in the midst of the famine, where is your mind? What is your mindset? How do you see it? What is your perspective? That is a question you need to ask yourself, or those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. When you are building wealth, are you going to settle for being safe? Or are you going to take the risk and believe that things will work out eventually? One thing that I've seen in terms of behaviors, in terms of investment behaviors, in terms of financial behaviors, is that 20 years, 100 years back, if we look at that, there's always been something that has been shaking the economy. But for some reason, things always tend to recover. So what does that tell us? That shows us that your financial journey is not just about the money. It's also about emotional resilience, your ability to train yourself. When things are not going well, the ability to teach yourself to be resilient, the ability to teach yourself to be calm in the midst of all the chaos. And that's how you pull through, or that's how you succeed financially, is when things don't look favorable, but you still continue going. You continue sowing on the ground, even when it seems like there may be losses. Now, of course, apply your mind, do your research, make sure that you're not sowing on something that will not be fruitful at the end of the day. And this is why we see here in verse 12, in verse 12, the Bible says that the Lord blessed him. Make sure that when, as a believer, when you're building your wealth, that you include God in your wealth building. God will be able to direct you to the right place. He'll be able to tell you, this is maybe not worth the investment. Maybe invest here, look at this area, even when it doesn't make sense. We see that, that example with Abraham and Lot, when they had to choose land between one another, and Lot settled for land that looked beautiful to the eye, that looked pleasurable. And Abraham had to settle for something that didn't look so pleasant to the eye. But we see later on which land was more fruitful. And that's the same thing with your financial journey as a believer, is that you need to look at it from God's perspective. Involve God in your wealth building. Ask him, is this the investment that you want me to make? Is this the area that you want me to invest in? Not everything that looks pretty, not everything that looks golden is pleasurable or beneficial. Doesn't mean it's fruitful. Not all that glitters is gold. Make sure that as you make that decision, you're making the right one. You're making the right informed decision. But With that being said, do not stop sowing just because things have dried down. Make sure that you make a commitment towards investing, even when things don't make sense. Don't remove investing from your priorities. Do not remove investing from your plans. If you have to minimize your expenses, if you have to minimize certain things to still accommodate your investment goals, then do that. Now understand that Isaac's increase was not just luck. He responded out of obedience. It was consistency. It was trust in the principle even when the circumstances did not agree. Now normally while others were reacting to famine, Isaac was strategic about it. He responded with strategy. And this is why the Bible actually tells us that he began to prosper and continued prospering. This means that his growth was not once off. It was a pattern. So for you to be fruitful, it's not something that you just hope and pray and just plant once. Be consistent on it. When the land is dry, be consistent. Build that consistency. Build that lifestyle. Now, if we bring this into our financial lives today, we also live in seasons of uncertainty. The rising cost of living, inflation, the fuel increases, the job insecurities, the economic pressure that we're currently experiencing, where we do not know what is happening. But understand that normally in these moments, most people change their behavior negatively. But here are lessons that I want us to learn from Isaac that we can apply in our current life. Number one, don't stop investing because times are tough. Tough seasons are not a signal to stop. They are a signal to be more intentional. When you pause everything, you will also pause your growth. Number two, opportunity still exists in downturns. Famine doesn't remove land, it just changes perception. In every economy, there are still opportunities, but fear hides them from many people. We see, if we look at the times, the COVID times, things were very uncertain. People were pulling back. People were bulk buying out of panic, out of fear. But if we look at it, there were certain opportunities that rose during that time, like your deliveries, your food. The food never stopped, but people saw opportunities and said, you know what, people are going to be at home. Let's start delivery services. People on social media, there was a rise in social media activity. People were on the internet more. We saw the opportunities that came from there, and that's when the rise of influencers came. And the monetization of the influencer market also rose from that opportunity. So there's so many opportunities that arise. You need to decide that you are not going to fear, but instead you're going to look for opportunities. You are going to direct your mindset towards seeing opportunity instead of risk and fear or danger. Number three, consistency is more powerful than timing. Isaac did not wait for perfect condition. He acted consistently in imperfect conditions. Wealth is often built by those who stay consistent while others quit. Same thing applies to gym or your health. Same thing applies to your relationships. Same thing applies to when you build your relationship with the Lord. It's consistency. Things are built through consistency. So the moment you decide to quit, nothing can continue. Number four, fear makes people reactive. Discipline makes people strategic. Fear says, stop everything, hide, pause. But discipline teaches us to adjust, to still continue, but adjust. It teaches us to adapt. And that's the attitude we should have in the midst of uncertain times, is instead of stopping, instead of discontinuing, adjust. Look at everything and just adjust in a way that will still help you continue in these uncertain times. The difference, honestly is the difference that determines long-term financial outcomes. Think long-term when you're building your wealth. And number five, your season does not define your system. So your financial system, which consists possibly of saving, investing, budgeting, that should remain strong even when the economy is weak. Do not compromise on your system Make sure that your system continues. Do not let your systems depend on the seasons. Your systems must withstand the test of time. Build a system that will not be swayed by circumstances. Your system must work throughout. You must develop an evergreen system that will withstand the cold seasons, the hot seasons, that will withstand any season. Because systems are what create stability in unstable times. So now I want us to do a declaration together. I want you to declare with me tonight, I will not be stopped by seasons. I will remain consistent in discipline. I will sow even in difficult times. My financial growth will not be controlled by fear. I will prosper with wisdom and consistency. Do not let your season, or do not let the season stop your strategy. Continue. Be consistent. If, for instance, you were investing 1,000 Rand and 1,000 Rand is a little bit too much, adjust it to 750, adjust it to 500 Rand, but never stop. Now, this brings us to the end of our session tonight on Unlocking Finance with your financial friend. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If there's one thing I want you to take with you tonight, it is this. Financial wisdom is not just about how much you earn, but how well you manage, how well you grow and give what has been entrusted to you. Understand that seasons will change. Economies will shift. Conditions will fluctuate. But discipline, consistency, wisdom will always produce results over time. My name is Ntombi, and I'm here, as always, to help you unlock your financial potential through simple, practical, and biblical principles. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this session was helpful to you. See you or join me in the next one next week. Good night.